Thank you, Doc, for holding the fort. I tell you, there are those days when you come on and everything just doesn't work. So my what you call it, this thing, Zoom just decided to hang. And then I've been battling it out with Zoom technical, wherever they sit from in New York or wherever it is, California or something. We've been trying to sort out my Zoom on my phone. I mean, we use a paid for version, as you all know. And the challenge is, for some reason, there's been some updates, and then those updates are just messing everything up. So it's one of those days, but thank you, Doc, for jumping in as always. You know how these things go. But now that we're ready, and you heard what Doc was telling you, you need to make sure you really got your act together and are pushing every single day. Be under some kind of mentor, coach, that's going to be able to really push you, because when you're accountable, things are just different. Anyway, so very quickly, thanks, Doc, once more. Very quickly, let me jump into my lesson for today. We've been looking at the good leadership principles. We've been dealing with that series. And if you recall, I've already covered topics like leading from the front. That was the first one. Second one was have self-control, not egoism. Third one, have moral courage. Very interesting topic. The fourth one, have physical courage. Then we looked at fostering teamwork. And then we talked about having fitness and energy, and also being aggressive and bold. So today we're looking at some more. And we begin with the first one, because I mean, wherever we end is wherever we end. And that is take care of your soldiers. I'm telling you, in leadership, if there's one area a lot of CEOs and company owners really fail, it's on this one. Okay, taking care of your soldiers. Now, it was Major General Maxwell Taylor who said the badge of rank that an officer wears on his coat is really a symbol of servitude to his men. I'll say that again. The badge of rank that an officer wears on his coat is really a symbol of servitude to his men. In short, that major is there to serve his men. And it is Jesus who said, "He that desires to be greatest among you must be servant of all." So this is where the idea of servant leadership comes. And sometimes, I mean, if there's a place where you see leadership, it's in church. But sometimes I look at especially this new breed of leaders in the church, and it leaves much to be desired, because you really wonder, are they servants or are they lords? They behave like lords. They behave like small little gods. They are worshipped. They have this big throne in front of the church. Everybody. I mean, there's some pastors who literally, when they walk into the church, everybody stands. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry to say. I praise God, and I respect the office and the gift and the grace. That's a very typical charismatic term. The grace on the man of God, on the woman of God. But I think the line between respect and reverence bordering on deification is very thin, especially with the new generation. I think that is wrong. We have gone right back to the traditional early pre-Protestant kind of behavior that we saw going on between the heads of the church and people that were in the church. They literally worshipped these people as gods. That's wrong. Now, taking care of your soldiers, what's that all about? This particular rule is profound and is very tied to rule number 1, which is leading from the front, right? It is only selfish management and leadership that would rather pay itself first than ensuring that all workers and staff are paid first. I am aware of a number of companies and organizations where top management always get paid earlier than the blue collar and sales staff, a definite sign of an uncaring attitude toward the welfare of their men under them. It is this reason that leads to mutiny. Okay, that's where people just sabotage the company by stopping working or taking up an attack against the leadership, okay? Or staff downing tools and running battles with management, right? This always happens whenever they sense that leadership has no heart for their men. True leaders always eat last. I mean, I sing about this all the time. You see, in the earlier days, and you need to understand, where is this coming from, right? In the earlier days of hunter-gatherer communities, the strongest and bravest warriors would be honored by getting the best of everything. This happened for a very obvious reason. Why would leaders be honored? So I need you to understand that honoring of leaders, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong per se. There's nothing wrong with honoring your leader and respecting them and giving them the respect due, protocol, all that stuff. It's great. But I'm going to tell you why that was so. Listen to what I'm about to say. These leaders were able to ensure the survival and well-being of the community. Okay, that's what was great about these leaders. But then there was a price for this. Okay, whenever the community faced any mortal danger, whether from wild animals or opposing tribes, it was expected that the protection would be offered by the leader. And that meant they placed their very lives on the line. And this was the price they paid for being honored. And that's what you got to understand. When the honor came, it's because everybody realized this is the reason we are all surviving. So even if somebody hunted, they would come, hand these things as tributes over to the leader, and then the leader would have what they would want, and then the rest goes down the rank and file. But you see, that honor was paid for because when danger faced the community, it was those leaders that were in the front going to fight on behalf of the community. So the strongest obviously got given preference and the weakest kind of held back. This idea, ladies and gentlemen, is about putting yourself and your life on the line for the sake of your men and women. That's what great leaders do. So taking care of your men is the most powerful way to breed loyalty from anyone. A leader that is tasked to oversee, okay? It is only a selfish boss who ignores this fundamental principle of great leaders. Now, during the American Civil War, the Union Army was compelled to form the first ever African-American company to fight alongside the white units against the Confederate States. And one such unit was what was the famous 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry. Their officer was a gallant young white officer named Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, who had the challenging task of turning this into a disciplined and focused unit fit for real combat, okay? It is said that on one of their first pay, the amount was $13. And now this $13 was really a slave wage by all standards and was greatly frowned on by the infantry members. Now listen to what I mean when I talk about leaders dying for their followers. When Colonel Shaw, a very young man, by the way, I think he was what, 24? He was a very young man, okay? When he saw the amount and heard the complaints of his men, he also refused his pay and formally lodged in a complaint with the appropriate channels for the pay to be increased to match that of white infantry. So in short, the black infantries were getting less than the white infantries, but on top of that, they were being paid a slave wage. Okay, so what is interesting is that Colonel Robert Gould Shaw was ready to die for his men. He was ready to suffer their fate. Now imagine he came from a very privileged background. They kept actually a very prominent family in Boston. On top of that, he was white. And on account of the connections of his father to all the top brass, this is what sold to him becoming at a very young age a colonel. But this was also because obviously he was the only one of the very few white officers that was willing to lead an infantry of the first ever African-American soldiers. So this young man was an amazing young man. And what is interesting is because of what Colonel Shaw demonstrated, his men were ready to die for him. It is amazing when you read the stories around what happened with Colonel Shaw. A lot of his soldiers were happy to fight and die for him. And interestingly, he was happy and ready to fight and die for them too. Of course, very sadly, Colonel Shaw and his gallant 54th died trying to overcome Fort Wagner. An amazing story. And the story, everything about Kenosha is immortalized in a lot of places in the United States. So brave were his actions and those of his men that they received posthumous medals, and their deeds are forever memorialized at the Harvard University through the letters he wrote to his mother during those turbulent years. He truly embodied the principle, leaders eat last. And he was only 26 years of age, by the way, when he died in that battle, proving leadership is not a preserve of age, but character. So he's forever immortalized in a great movie you should watch called, I forgot the name, but it's a very, very nice movie with Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, and of course, Matthew Broderick as Kenosha. So you can read a lot about him. But for me, Robert Gould Shaw demonstrates what I'm talking about, taking care of your soldiers. So let me pause here very quickly before I go to the next point and ask you as you listen to me today, are you taking care of your soldiers? Are you dying for the sake of your workers? Are you one of those people that would rather be feeding and eating and taking care of yourself first rather than looking out for those that are on the front lines of your company, ensuring that things go well? When there's an opportunity for you to get money, would you rather keep the money for yourself, or would you rather first pay all those that are under you so that you ensure they are paid first before you proceed? For me, this concept is best illustrated in the political scenario by our leaders today. Would our leaders be willing to get their pensions first at the expense of thousands upon thousands of people who have not been paid pensions, who are suffering and dying without receiving their pension? For me, that there exemplifies leadership. If people are willing, if these our leaders are willing to forfeit their benefits for the sake of ensuring that those whom they lead in their constituencies get what is due to them first, then for me, I would say those are great leaders. Unfortunately, historically, most of our MPs, most of our leaders would rather they get their own pension first. They would rather get their own pension, but you and I both know that there's so many people out there who have not received their pensions. They have suffered, they have cried, they have gone through hell. Nobody is caring about paying them their pension. I think for me, that's just immoral at every level. And that's why I say that true leadership, great leadership, is very rare. I'm not saying that the current leadership isn't doing something about it. I'm just giving you examples from the past, because we should have had no pensions outstanding right now. But you know very well that there are workers who've not been paid for years. You come in as an MP, you come in as a leader, and you exit and get your pension, and you leave these poor widows and widowers and old men and women suffering, and they're not receiving their money. Sometimes, let me tell you, some of the reasons we see some setbacks in this country is because you've refused to deal and fairly deal with those who have worked and earned their money. Remember, pensions is not a favor from government. Pensions is the money of the very workers that were contributing. This is true of companies as well. Are you a company owner? When you're doing mergers, when you're doing acquisitions, how are you treating your workers? Are you fair to your workers or unfair? I can tell you, I know for a fact that some of the people that are admired and touted as great leaders in business and commerce in this country, they were able to earn millions of dollars on mergers and acquisitions, and they could not even take a portion of the money they earned for selling these companies and say, you know what, take this amount and share it as an extra bonus among all the workers that worked to build these organizations and get them to a certain level. I saw that for myself. There are certain business leaders in this country I no longer hold in high esteem because I know they earned millions of dollars on acquisitions and on mergers. And instead of taking a portion, I'm not even saying they take the money, just a portion, even a third or even 1/10 of that money, and saying, all those people that worked to get this company to where it is today, I am going to give them this as part of their benefit. They earned it. It is their right to do so. These leaders, these people that people admire so much, never bothered, not even 1 cent to those workers. So you see, when I tell you that are people taking care of their soldiers, truth be told, the majority don't even bother about the working person. This is why sometimes socialists sound exciting, socialists sound like they are talking sense. The truth of the matter is I've studied socialism inside out and I've studied capitalism. Give me capitalism any day. Give me capitalism. The only difference is capitalism should have a human face backed by good leadership principles. Principles, ethics, morals, where somebody is grounded on the well-being of another human being. The problem is human beings are selfish by nature. And so even when they have an opportunity, they would rather pay peanuts, if they even pay at all. They would rather eat first before letting others eat. They would rather look out for themselves than look out for the welfare of others. And this is why, for me, for example, we're big on the whole idea of self-love, and I am in agreement with self-love. We all need self-love. But I always say this. Jesus said, and I quote, "Greater love has one more, no more than this, than to lay down their life for the sake of their friends." This is the greatest love of all. Are you laying down your life as a leader for the sake of your followers? Are you laying down your life as a leader for the sake of those that depend on you as workers? Dr. Nelly gave a phenomenal example the other time of how she empowered one of her house helps, not just a case of paying her or giving her a pension, but empowering her to go on to do something profound in her life. For me, I think that's what impact is. Impact should be a mark you leave in the life of people where they are better when they exit than when they came in. What have you done to impact their life? What have you done to add to the betterment of their life in terms of themselves, in terms of their children, in terms of their welfare, in terms of their well-being? What have you done? The Bible is dotted with such great leaders. We know stories in the Bible where men went to look for Jesus for the sake of their servants. Can you imagine that? Servants, not even their children, servants. And this is my greatest servant. He's very sick. Lord, heal him. Now you can imagine how profound that is. This leader was so concerned about the welfare of the servant. Obviously, that meant that servant was very instrumental in the well-being of their company, but that is not the point. The point is that this leader was willing to do everything it takes to see the welfare and well-being of that servant taken. Let me quickly close with the next one, and we'll close with this, and then next week we'll come on the other one. And this is being a student of the past. The only way, this is Napoleon, by the way. The only right way of learning the science of war is to read and reread the campaigns of great captains. So be a student of the past. Go back, okay? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. Again, on a similar note, they that do not learn from history are bound to repeat it. Okay, so going by these rather powerful quotes, it is often a common thing to see newly appointed persons choosing to discard all that the predecessors do without prejudice, much to their own chagrin. Okay, how many times have we, for instance, seen the depressing habit of throwing out the baby with the bathwater whenever there's a change of regime in this country of Zambia? Okay, even when there are good programs at play, the newcomers always choose not to undergo any familiarization of what the previous administration did, what project, what leads, what progress, and the like. We saw this when Chiluba's administration came into power, and again we saw it under Monawasa, even though it was all MMD. We saw this again under Sata, and I am praying that we're not going to see it under the new Dawn administration. But unfortunately, humans being humans, there's this tendency to be very, very personal about things, even when objectivity tells you that you don't just kick someone out, but you have some kind of familiarization, connect with them, get to know what they've been up to, especially at PS level and at minister level. I mean, you don't just kick someone out, but unfortunately, that's what we do in this country. But if you just have the grace to sit and say, okay, my predecessor, I hope you don't mind coming and we sit 2-3 days and talk together. I just want to get a feel of what you've been up to. What are the big deals you've been working on? Now, some people may have issues, but I'm telling you, don't be the weaker party. the greater party chooses to be the greater person in that situation. And so humble yourself and call upon those who are exiting, no matter how bitterly they may be doing so, just to familiarize yourself with what projects, programs we're up to, which directors were working on what. And then at the same time, even if you carry out an appraisal, you're also trying to retain what we call institutional memory. Will there be silos? Will there be politics? Of course, there's always politics. But the truth of the matter is, mature people learn from the past. So we see this play out in many governments in terms of departments and ministries as well. And that is why it is important that institutional memory is retained, so that there is a way in which new leadership can learn from the past administrators in order to avoid repeating mistakes and instead cutting short their learning curve. I mean, projects that are literally just awaiting a signature get delayed by 1 year. Because obviously when somebody comes in, I'm sure there must be money they were eating. You see, that kind of thinking is not going to help anybody. Are we doing this for the nation, or are we doing this for individuals? If we're doing it for the nation, then let's just use whatever methods you have in terms of investigating if there's anything dodgy. But don't get into the habit of cancel everything, drop everything, kick everybody out. But then you find that you are throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Yes, the bathwater is dirty, but the baby is useful. And so learn to draw from what these people are teaching. Now, it was Marcus Garvey who said, and I quote, "A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture are like a tree without roots." This is true at every level of life, and especially in leadership. It is only a foolish leader that does not take time to study the past, especially around his endeavor, and learn from his or her predecessor of what they did to tackle their challenges during their tenure. This is a very, very critical truth. And like I keep saying, it's very unfortunate that a lot of our people are extremely emotional and they're not leadership minded, in that they take time back, look at what's going on, and find out how best to take advantage of what's going on. Okay, oh, thank you, Nichelle. Yes, it's called Glory. That's the name of a movie, by the way, when I was talking about leaders who die for others. So it's Glory with Denzel Washington, Matthew Broderick, and Morgan Freeman. Very old movie from, I think, 1997 or 2003 or something, but it's quite old. Anyway, so back to my point. So we need to realize that this is what differentiates. So can we learn how to harness and be students of those that leave, those who've done something before? Don't reinvent the wheel, but find a way to glean from them. And so on that note, I want to thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like the channel, subscribe, click on the notification button to stay in touch and be notified of latest updates. The rest of the conversations can go on in the Facebook group, Facebook video there. Ask your questions, interact, and remember to share this video as well. So for myself, all the best. Tomorrow, definitely, so it's from 1989. Whoa, it's a really old movie. So 1989, there you go. That's what the movie Glory is, 89. So anyway, like I was saying, so let's make sure that we all take note and share the video and learn from these principles tomorrow. And Sylvia will be here to tell us more about the Mindset Change program. And so for myself, have a great guy, and apologies once more that we had started a bit late. Cheers.